Take a look at any ad today from the likes of P&G, Unilever, Idea, Nestle or any other, and you'd wonder if these were consumer product companies or NGOs. Over the last few years, brands galore have adopted the marketing mantra of having a higher purpose, and they've gone all out communicating this to their customers and community at large. But alas, the worst kind of marketing is one when you overpromise and underdeliver. A case in point being the Chennai Floods. The absence of these large brands rolling up their sleeves and coming out to help their community during a severe crisis like this is noteworthy. Only because they've been feeding us all their lofty ideals for a while now. Vijay Ravi finds out why brands abstain from doing their bit, and here we're not talking about free supplies, and was this really a lost opportunity for them to have demonstrated their so-called values?
आइए ये शपथ लें कि अपने मोहल्ले को चमकाएं, हर एक शहर को इंडिया की शान बनाएं।
Creative crafting couldn't possibly get better on indigenous soil. Go beyond product benefits and make lofty claims about change. A stand for society betterment, and by the end of it, you can expect the climax reading a happy ending. But off-reel, when a real conflict strikes the world, why is it that these very brands seldom act what they've scripted? If conflict is the key to connect, then the recent Chennai floods was the perfect medium to stand by your brand claim. A large portion of the city was waterlogged, there were power failures, shortage of supplies, and an overall sense of chaos. Chennai received approximately 540 mm of rain, that's nearly 3 times more than the usual amount of rain in December. The catastrophe was unexpected, and ironically, so was the brand response.
See, if brand is an act of sensitivity, then there was no Chennai crisis. Okay? I think they were completely deaf to the whole thing. In fact, if you were to say that brand is an attempt to define reality, define commodity, define a way of life, then I don't think brands responded to the Chennai crisis.
You know, the key point is this, that brands are ready for marketing, but brands are not ready for care. And when a nation suffers, when a nation goes through something like the Chennai floods, let's say, it's extremely important for brands to be ready.
They've invested tons in visual drapery to set their tall humanitarian claims. But off record, they've ceased to pull off what they stood for. Starting out with an eerie silence followed by doling out freebies, this response was most definitely not in line with their brand positioning. Evidently, more time was spent in conference rooms focusing on imagery than comforting residents. Their brand marketing stands synonymous to that of an NGO, so the expectation obviously was no different. Given the resources they have, these heavyweights could have pinned down the crisis by engaging in more than mere freebie distribution. Nature took its turn, leaving some brands' persona in question. Evidently, there wasn't much alignment between the message brands propagate and their actions at the grassroots level.
If a brand wants to behave like an NGO, it has to think like an NGO. NGOs don't give freebies. They participate with the community. They talk to the community. They listen to the community. They respond to the community.
Particularly because in the last few years, most brands talk about being purpose-driven and having therefore some larger, loftier purpose, So they're not just peddling stuff, but they're actually working to the betterment of humankind in some form or the other. And in line with this, I mean, the real test of it is in a humanitarian crisis. That's when the people are really distressed, where any intervention and meaningful help gets appreciated. So for brands to see this, of course, as a responsibility, but also as a way of demonstrating, all that they've been claiming, I think this is the ideal testing ground.
I think the second thing you got to understand deeply and fundamentally is this involved a new kind of imagination. This needed new inventions. A freebie or a dole is an act of patronage.
One brand that stood out during the crisis with an innovative insight was Ola. The travel service provider recognized the need to reach out and in turn recrafted their services with the novel Ola Boats.
This was more of a crisis situation that needed a very different approach, right? And most of Chennai was waterlogged, and there were a lot of places where obviously cabs just couldn't reach, right? Which was where we experimented, getting other modes of transportation like boats in place. The idea came obviously from a lot of internal debate and discussion on what we can do in Chennai to get mobility going, but more importantly, this was not to look at it from a transportation point of view, but more from a crisis resolution point of view.
At a time of crisis, what people are looking for is not just generic help, but they are looking for specific help. And I think what Ola did is solve a specific problem, a big problem that the residents of the city were facing.
Zomato, on the other hand, faced a predicament during the crisis. Their intention may have been to help, but they decided to float on goodwill rowing on their consumers' muscle. Zomato's marketing tactic to amplify sales during a severe crisis led to its own misfortune.
The whole point is this, that when there is time of real trouble, then help cannot be contingent. You cannot make your help conditional. I mean, you cannot say that if you do X, I will do Y.
A freebie is an insult, but so is a bargain model. You don't bargain. I mean, you might have flea markets after a disaster, but the dignity of bargaining a flea market has is not what Zomato provides.
Another brand that simply could not pass this golden opportunity for disaster marketing was brand Amma. The Chief Minister of the state had stickers of her face stuck onto relief supplies that were being used in Chennai to ensure maximum use of this branding opportunity. More opportunistic than heroic.
I think that's the crassest form of exploitation. I mean, really. I mean, that, when you try and, particularly when, people, it was not as if that was the swiftest of responses or, the government machinery swung into action and everyone, heaved a sigh of relief. That would not be the narrative that unfolded. In a time like that, when you finally get your, and are doing something, and you try and take advantage of it, and you try and, I think that is truly exploitative.
Disaster and marketing are very strange bedfellows. I don't think they must go together.
To be recognized off the counter, you ought to create a strong connection. And going by what we see, creating goodwill has given good riddance to textbook methodologies. But the question that is yet to be answered is the fact that how much of what these very brands script on camera translates into reality.
Normally what we do is, that's what we did in Uttarakhand when there was natural calamity there. But here it was a little different. Government requested us, to help them out. But since they requested us, we had sent about 4 truckloads of biscuits to the collector's office.
One has to actually see to believe the efforts that the team put to restore the outages that had happened in our networks and host of other networks of other players in Chennai. To actually see how much of effort went to restore the network. So that's the first priority and the basic service that we provide to our customers. We also have a service philosophy of happy to help. And I think we took that service philosophy out of our Vodafone stores, where we had volunteers from Vodafone who were actually walking the streets, the affected areas, offering free phone calls, offering free water and light refreshments.
Their answers evidently question their brand claim, making us the consumers believe that these very brands surely know how to tap emotions, but know little to nothing on how to reach out.
This was the perfect plot for storyboards to come to life. If brands had acted with purpose like they claim, they would have found their respective flags soaring high in the consumer's mind. But alas.
Now, FCB Ulka is one agency that's been grabbing headlines. First, for the grand appointment of Satbir Singh as its chief creative officer, and then in less than a year for his not-so-grand exit. And now they've appointed then-Sue hand Rohit Ori as its new commander-in-chief. But the task at hand is not going to be easy for Rohit, given that the agency now is sans a creative head, coupled with the creative culture at the agency, which is completely different from where Rohit hails. I caught up with Rohit Ori to ask him just these questions. Listen in. Thank you so much for joining us, Rohit. Truly a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much.
Firstly, many congratulations on your new assignment, FCB Ulka. Big change from where you've been. Why leave then-Sue? Because we all know that you're the man who's credited with the Taproot acquisition. You've been there ever since then-Sue decided to get aggressive and make an imprint, within the Indian landscape. Why quit then-Sue at this point?
So the thing is that the 4 years that I was in then-Sue, I really had a great time. It was a great run. I think I had a lot of support from then-Sue Inc. But the fact is that I had changed my role. So I was I'd moved to Singapore, and I was like heading up then-Sue in Asia Pacific, which had a lot of challenges. And what I realized that it was a more administrative kind of a role, and it wasn't really about being in the work and actually creating communication.
Sure.
And that was something that was a little difficult for me. It's not so exciting. It's not something that I'd really like to do. So then I met Carter Murray at Cannes, and he completely charmed me.
FCB is a legacy agency. It's got some really old school legacy brands. But the one thing that the agency seems to lack is the fact that it doesn't come across as a very contemporary agency with the times. I guess, a part of the reason is also that the people who you associate FCB with are very old school. One expected some change when Satbir joined as CCO. Suddenly took us all, the entire industry by shock that Satbir just quit, barely within a year.
Yeah.
How do you explain that?
Actually, I really don't know, quite honestly, because this is my third day in FCB Ulka.
Sure.
Satbir quit about a month and a half back. That aside, I think to address the important part of your question really is about the perception about FCB Ulka. And you're right. There is a perception, but the fact is, it is a perception. The fact is that they have people in the agency who've been in that company for more than 20 years. They've got clients with more than 40, 50-year-old relationships.
Sure.
There's a value in that. The culture that we want to create in the agency will change, of course.
Of course.
I think that is very critical.
Right. But I think, a starting point for any agency when it wants to be known as this creative, large but still a creative hot shop, is the fact that it needs to have a strong creative face. And I know that you've come from an organization, not then-Sue, but before that, your long stint with GWT, where, it's been faceless for a long time, and that was inherently the problem.
Yeah.
Hopefully things will change now with a new appointment. But, so having said that, you've come in where there is no CCO. So it's a similar position, so it's familiar territory, really.
So, that's something that obviously is a big question, and everybody is asking that question. To my mind, I think there are many ways to skin the cat. It's no longer about that one magic man with the magic wand who will come and change things for you. Okay. I don't think that's an old model, and I think the advertising industry is trapped in that old model. Okay. Because that model actually is completely broken at this point in time, and I think people need to realize that sooner than later. From my perspective, I think the most important thing is really to make sure that the client's perception of FCB on the creative front changes completely. Now, whether that needs a single person or it needs a network of really talented with diverse skills, creative resources, that's the question that we're going to debate over the next month and take a call on that. So the mandate I've got from Global is really the creative transformation.
Okay.
Right? That is absolutely single-mindedly the one big thing that we want to do.
What about pressures on, bottom line profitability? Because finally that would be one of your key KRAs.
Yeah, but you know, the agency has been very well run. So my focus is really going to be on you know, the perception and managing
bit,
that,
yeah.
and the PR bit. No, not PR bit.
PR would be the wrong word. It's almost become a bad word. But
Bad
I mean,
word, yeah.
But I mean, like more presentation, you know, packaging of the agency.
That's right.
all
Because
of that.
I think in many ways, you know, the agency is because the leadership has always believed in not talking or not tom-tomming their achievements. You know, and in today's day and age,
Doesn't work.
that doesn't work, right? So you need to, what are your strengths? You need to leverage that and let the world see it.
On that note, Rohit, many congratulations and all the very best for your innings with FCB, and hopefully we'll see FCB go on to heights that we've not seen before.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for your good wishes.
Now, going by the array of advertisements and marketing marvels we run into across multiple mediums, customer is king. But off camera, the focus seems to shift many a times. Their grassroots level demeanor has proven to be an antithesis to their very own philosophy, leaving customers appalled. Brands sweat it out on the advertising front to create a name, and paradoxically, some leave their customers panting in anonymity, trying to voice their grievances. Here's one such story of a coveted brand, MAC Cosmetics, that propagates beauty draped in individualism, yet an in-store official botched up this very claim with the most shocking of statements. We at Brand Equity attempt to break the seal with Cuss-tomer Chronicles.
Big brands are well spoken across multiple mediums, but beyond that, some never speak to you. They're heroic in brand communication.
Customer service, this is Kelly. Oh my god, I am so sorry. That is so messed up.
But sometimes their callous customer service response brings out a villainous side in all of us. Evidently, their creative craft is magnanimous, but the reality is maddening. Here's one such story that will blow your mind. MAC Cosmetics, a brand that deals in honoring beauty amongst women, aren't looking too good on the retail service front. It may be a signature name in makeup, but alas, it hasn't managed to conceal its own blemishes. Jaya Kumar, a business development manager at J Sagar Associates, went through a horrifying experience at MAC's store in Mumbai. Listen in.
I wanted to hide the spots that I have on my skin, and somebody suggested that MAC is very good with their concealers and highlighters. Why don't you try it? So we went there, and there was one sales representative who we thought would help, but she was in her own zone. And we asked her, this is the skin and how can you help? The only good thing that she did was ask me if she can use her fingers on my face. Otherwise, there was no courtesy smile, nothing. It was like, I'm doing an obligation at you by making you sit here and helping you with makeup. And when she put the highlighter on me, it was just like a stroke of silver paint on my face. And like, this is not looking nice. Do you have anything else? She's like, yeah, we have the concealer. And she put the concealer on my face as well. But she was like, I was like, this is also not helping. I mean, do you have a dark shader, a shade darker, or do you have a better product that I can use from MAC? But the way she responded and the kind of statement that she used for my kind of skin is like, your skin is very bad. Only Botox can help. And MAC can only help you to look beautiful in pictures.
If its flamboyant stance is to be taken at face value, MAC Cosmetics stands for all ages, races, sexes, as it appreciates individuality. They've definitely gone beyond geographical boundaries as a global name. But for a disgruntled customer trying to reach out, it seems to be an exercise in futility. This is definitely not a stray incident. There is an evident thread of such encounters taking place in MAC outlets across the globe. Rachita Prasad, Jaya's friend who was with her during this body-shaming incident, attempted to connect with MAC Cosmetics across platforms, but all in vain.
I asked Jaya if I could take this forward because she wasn't sure if she wanted to make a complaint about it. So then in that case, I actually first wrote to them directly on their official website, and there was no response from them for the next 24 hours or so. So then I decided to take it on social media because I thought maybe that will work better. And so initially I posted it on their official Facebook page. And what I also did is simultaneously I posted the same message on my own page and tagged them. So again, there was no response for almost a day and a half. In fact, on my page, they didn't respond at all. But what happened is that message went viral, and a lot of other people who had similar experiences started sharing. I mean, it's an interesting string of people complaining and sharing the kind of experiences they have had with Mac or with other brands. But surprisingly, there are a lot of people who've had issues in the same branch of Mac. And I also tweeted about it. And again, they sent an automated response almost a day and a half later, and which was never followed up.
MAC Cosmetics can doll you up within minutes. But shockingly, to fill in a body-shaming scar, 1 month seems little too less for this international giant. They claim to cast magical spells of shades and formulas to craft distinctive beauty. But in Jaya's case, they've conveniently cast out the blotch with template responses. It's been over a month. The social media post response is pending. The automated responses are outdated, and the customer's patience has finally worn out.
After so many attempts of the contacts that we had with Mac, and after tagging them, nobody had responded. And finally, a PR manager who heads India woke up and she called me one day and like, what can we do for you? Can we help you with some kind of makeup training at our other store in South Bombay? And what do you want from us? And I was like, okay, you are apologetic, but I want to know how many days do you train your makeup artist at the counter for? And it was 2 days. I was shocked. I don't even know what has happened to the girl. Like, I have not been informed. Like, she has humiliated me in front of people, and they have not told me that we have sacked her or we have pulled her up or we have sent an email internally saying that this is something, this behavior is not acceptable as a MAC employee, and this is what should have been done.
Funny thing, a month later, they sent us a hard copy of an apology, which is pretty much a template apology that they had sent us before.
The grammar to chalk out an ideal customer recovery post a debacle like this should ideally be stemmed by prompt responses. Brand Equity too tried to get in touch with MAC Cosmetics and received the much expected programmed response. In fact, MAC India's PR manager Richard Dandekar got in touch with us after a series of attempts made from our end via mail, call and text messages, only to quote that MAC India's brand manager is not authorized to speak on issues like this, only artistry. This email sent in by MAC Cosmetics is the official and final response by them. We must say, their apparent graciousness has appalled us. For the trouble caused, Jaya Kumar wasn't wrong in expecting more than dialogue. Stern action would have brought a utopian ending to the story. But sadly, MAC Cosmetics failed to deliver.
But I want to say that I definitely am moving on from Mac and using some other product.